Okay, in this video, I'm going to explain in more detail about exactly what environmental factors are, why they're important, and just how they can impact businesses. When we talk about environmental factors in senior business, we aren't talking about Mother Nature, okay? So it's not about plants and herbs. We're actually talking about everything. Anything that affects the business is part of its environment, just like you as a person. Anything that affects you and change the way that you live is part of your environment. And just like you, there are things that businesses can control and things that they can't. So there are things that relate specifically to a business's industry, and there are things that are happening on a much bigger scale. By the end of this video, my goal is for you to be able to understand the differences between the three categories of environmental factors and be able to read a newspaper or watch an article on a TV about current events and be able to know exactly what impact that will have on specific businesses. If you don't get that penny drop moment, then I want you to watch this video again and again if necessary. So being able to understand how the environmental factors work is key to understanding how to help identify potential problems for a business. The environmental factors are separated into three types: internal, operating, and macro. This terminology is really important when you mention them and are able to correctly categorize events into these three, it will make your business teacher very, very happy. Let's start with internal factors. The definition reads that it is aspects within a business that impacts on its ability to reach goals and serve its customers, such as available resources, culture, finances, procedures, planning, and people. So what does that mean? If a company has any control over it, then it's an internal factor. So let's go back to the example of what you can control. You can control what you have for breakfast, how you greet your family in the morning, how much time you put into researching a company for a business report, if you brush your teeth. These are all internal factors and you can control them. So for a company, they control how much they pay their employees, when and where they want to market their product, the hierarchy in their organization, the price of the product or service. All of these factors they can control, and therefore they are internal environmental factors. Next, we have operating factors. The definition is that these are external factors surrounding a specific industry or business that influence its activities and decisions, including customers, suppliers, creditors, special interest groups, and competitors. The important thing to remember here is that these are things that are external to the business, meaning the company cannot influence them, but they have a direct impact on a business's industry. Going back to the example of you, operating factors would include if your school is closed and starts delivering lessons remotely, if your parents decide to have another child, if the power goes out in your house. These are all things that you can control, but they do directly impact you and your family. So these things wouldn't impact a person who lives in another state that you don't know. Therefore, they are operating factors. So a business example would be maybe a new competitor shows up in the market, or if a new tax is put on the product or service that your company offers. Maybe the industry is under fire in the news. These are things that have a potential impact on the business, but will not impact every business in Australia. For example, in the restaurant industry, this is very competitive. And if you are the owner of a kebab shop and a burger place opens up right next door, you can't control this happening, but it does directly impact on your business and the other businesses in your local industry. However, it doesn't impact the electronics store across the road or the electronic industry. This means it's an operating factor. So when you see that Virgin Airlines has gone into administration, automatically Qantas would be rubbing their hands together because this is an operating factor in their industry. Qantas can't control what's happening with Virgin, but it's going to have a serious impact on their business, no matter what the outcome is. Then we go to macro factors. The definition of these are that they're external factors that shape every business. So the physical environment, social and cultural forces, demographics, economic climate, political, legal infrastructure, there's a lot. And again, these are factors that the business cannot control and they are external to the company. So using the example of you, the most obvious macro factor is that's impacting the entire world, coronavirus. So because of this, we're in a period of isolation and you can't leave the house. This does impact the person who lives in another state that you don't know. Business-wise, this macro environmental factor does impact the kebab shop as well as the electronics store across the road. So when there's an election, this is also considered a macro factor. Australia is a country mainly of migrants, so there's a great diversity in the types of restaurants that are available to us. The economic climate also plays a big role as a macro factor, and the rate of employment impacts across multiple industries. There are so many things that a business leader needs to consider at any one time. Business environments will feature very heavily in every case study that we look at. And these can make a massive difference to how successful a business can be and the recommendations that you will make. So remember, anything that is in the business's control is an internal environmental factor. This terminology is really important. Anything that isn't in the control of the company means that it's an external environmental factor, and these can be categorized into operating or macro. Operating are the things that a company can't control, but it does directly impact them and others in their industry. A macro factor is something that impacts across multiple industries and potentially the whole country. So challenge yourself. Tonight, I want you to watch the first 20 minutes of the news, and I want you to try and identify specific businesses that are going to be impacted by things that are happening in the world and in your local area. Then try to work out if you can categorize them into macro, operating, or internal environmental factors. Remember, if you find this challenging, watch this video again. Good luck.